Bitcoin is pumping again, but it's Sunday. So the question is, should you trust this pump? Or are we gonna get a similar manipulation that we got since the end of September, in which we had a Sunday pump and then a monster crash? I spent the whole weekend looking at the charts so we can come to a conclusion, as well as some on-chain data for this last week of October. Welcome to Crypto Predator. Hit the like button and subscribe. So today I want to give you a quick update when it comes to Bitcoin price. And just like we had at the end of September a Sunday pump, we are having a Sunday pump today again on October 26. So we're gonna answer the question if we are going only up from now on, or if we can expect a stronger pullback. And the first thing I want to talk about is our base case right here. And as you can see, we are already out of the weekly cycle window and entering the daily cycle window. The bottom for the weekly cycle has already been confirmed, and you can also see right here from the DSS. And although we had a strong deviation from our base case right here until the end of the year, in which I was expecting the price to continue to go up a little bit more, but we had the October 10 crash, the Bitcoin price has shown a lot of strength in holding the support level above the 108. Most importantly, we are still above the 50-week moving average, which is a strong confluence for the bullish market. But I notice here that the DSS is already halfway to the upper band, and taking into account that we are already entering the daily cycle low window, I do expect a strong pullback before we continue to move higher. Another confirmation that I always used is the RSI. The RSI moving average just crossed below the RSI right here, and usually when that happens we have small retests of that moving average before we continue to move higher. And I believe that's exactly what's gonna happen again before the next all-time high. And you probably already noticed on Twitter that everyone forgot about the global liquidity index, but I did not. Bitcoin price is deviating tremendously from the M2 global liquidity, and it seems like this is the time that we are about to catch up. And as important as the M2 global liquidity is the M2 growth and borrowing rate. Since we are out of the weekly cycle window and entering the daily cycle window, I expect the M2 rate to continue at this bottom right here, not down further, which is extremely important, because right now I am expecting a recovery of the M2 rate. And when we have the uptrend of the M2 rate, oh yes, the price will pump. And I know that some people are already calling for the end of the bull run, because based on the previous cycles, we are already way later. But here's how I think. You can't take things in the financial market as black and white. Just because we are a little bit delayed compared to the previous cycles, it doesn't mean that we are already over. Let's make a comparison here. Take a look at the first era. The bull market peak reached around this time right here. Now, at the second and third eras, it was much later, which doesn't invalidate the bull market. In the same way, if you zoom in, we had a double top at the third era, whereas on the second one, we had a top and then the bear market started. So it is okay to deviate a little bit. Of course, if we weren't way too much late and delayed, I would consider a bearish bias. And by the way, I'm not the kind of guy who likes to draw the cycles based on the halving, but actually from the bottoms. But this is a conversation for another video. And it is so true that Bitcoin performance is not in black and white, because all you have to do is to look at this chart right here. We have bullish and bearish months, but it doesn't mean that every month from now on is going to be bullish on that year. In every cycle, we have the same months, can be bearish, bullish, and vice versa. So context is everything when it comes to the peak. However, another strong bias that I have for the bullish market, that we are still a little bit to see some pump, is the fact that we are still getting some ETF inflows. And it seems like since the last week, we are already recovering. To add an even stronger confluence, we are on the fear level of the fear and greed index, and it seems like it is already reversing. Now, the question that I want to answer right now is, how much of a dump can we expect next week before we actually move higher? And when we zoom into the 4-hour time frame, we can see that the Bitcoin price already broke above the 10 daily moving average, which I believe is a strong confluence for the price to rise. I'm not a big fan of chart patterns right here, but I actually noticed a symmetrical triangle formation since the crash. And we are getting retests at around these regions. I noticed a point of interest right here at the 112, which formed a order block right here. And on the liquidation heat map, this can also be confirmed with some liquidity being formed at the same region, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get a strong liquidity sweep on the 108,800 level. So, take into account that we are already on the daily cycle window, I do expect a stronger pullback to this region right here before we finally get to the last pump. The resistance that we might actually face is going to be at the 114 level. But this is going to happen at the beginning of next week. Actually this week. But I just wanted to give you a quick update when it comes to Bitcoin price. Tell me what you guys think in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you on the next video.